let's move on to talking a little bit about distribution because
Sure.
you've talked about really some great placement for even your early movies. And that's not a success that all filmmakers share.
Right.
So I'd be curious to know how you found these distribution deals or if they found you, and how, without naming names, in general, how do you feel about the distribution you've received?
So with some of my films, it's interesting because with Arbor Demon, I wasn't a
Mhm,
producer. I
mhm.
was the director, I was the co-writer. So they were the ones who found the distribution deal for that. And it has been in a lot of places. I think it was on Hulu within the first 3 or 4 months that it came out.
It's not that's not terrible.
Yeah,
Well,
and that was
yeah,
2017, and then it made its way to it's on Fubo TV. I don't know if you know what Fubo TV.
I do, yeah, that it's an AVOD, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it was on Paramount Plus for like 2 years, and now it's on MGM Plus. It's weird because it's like it
I'm
just changes
confused.
all the time. Well, Epix was originally that's what it originally was, and then it
Mhm,
rebranded to MGM Plus. So I've been pleased with where that movie has ended up.
mhm.
Despite the fact that it's now called Arbor Demon versus Enclosure. And they may have been, I will eat my words. Would it have done as well with the title Enclosure? I would have felt better from an artistic standpoint, but maybe the movie did better because of the title. I don't know. But yeah, and it had a decent international release. Ironically, it's called Enclosure in the UK. They released it under its original title.
That's
Um,
actually pretty common.
yeah,
More common
yeah,
than you'd think, but
yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then Belong to Us, again, it was a situation where I wasn't necessarily involved with the distribution as much. I gave my 2 cents in the process, but and we went through, and I'm blanking on the name of the company. Um, that has not been as well of a good of a experience, to be perfectly transparent with you. Uh,
Mhm.
we hit the movie came out in August of 2019. It was in Walmart, and once we hit the pandemic, it was like radio silence. Even though the movie was showing up on various streaming services. So I am not in a position where I can do anything legally. It's more of a position where the producer has to do something. So full disclosure on that one.
That's yeah, I mean, that's really unfortunate. It happened a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
no quarterly
yeah.
reports. I think we received one in the first. And this is if I remember, it's a pretty decent sized company that continues to pick up movies and
Oh, so it's
but
not just like they folded, it's just that they
no,
stopped.
I thought they were,
Yeah.
but then I saw that they were actually producing a movie on top of it. So it's not. Um, so that
Oh,
is
I have a guess,
that.
but I'm not gonna say it.
Yeah, I'm not. It's one of those things where I'm gonna remain fairly quiet. But yeah, it has. I mean, perfectly honest with you, it has not been great. The movie has
Mm,
gotten a lot of eyes on it. Like I said, it's on Peacock and all these different places.
mhm.
It's streaming now. Every other day, it's playing on like Redbox's Faith and Family channel on
Oh,
Roku.
right, yeah.
So it's always on. And then there's a point. I'll be honest with you. There's a point as a filmmaker where um, if I'm not a producer on the movie, my work is mostly done at that point.
Mhm.
And so I will market the film on my social media. But if it comes to situations with a distributor, like I
It's not
can't.
your job.
Right. Now, if I'm a
Yeah.
producer on it, different story altogether.
Mhm.
And Nailbiter was interesting because it went through Grindstone, which is a subsidiary of Lionsgate,
Yeah.
and they pushed it really hard for the first. I mean, like I said, it was on Chiller.
Yeah.
It did really well, and then after Chiller folded, it's been very quiet. So I keep waiting for some type of resurgence of some type, but it hasn't really. It's been very quiet, and I get asked a lot. Even this last weekend when I was at a particular film festival, somebody goes, "Hey, when
Mhm.
are you going to make Nailbiter 2?" Because I teased it at the end of the first movie, and then
Mhm.
it was never we were never able to get it off the ground. It's sequels for indie films. I never want to do them just to do them. You
Yeah.
know, I think that there's sometimes a feeling like we're just going to throw something together and put a two behind it and make some money. And I'm like, I have to make it better than the last one. I have to, you
You
know,
have to
otherwise,
do the El Mariachi
the
to
Desperado.
Desperado.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or I always say, and I think Eric is tired of me mentioning it. He always says Alien and Aliens. I'm always like Mad Max and Road Warrior, you know, like for me,
Yeah.
like that's such a huge, between those two, there's such a huge leap to me. But you know, so yeah, I mean, for me, that experience was positive for Nailbiter until we hit 2018, and then it's been very quiet because it was on the horror channel in the UK. And now that's a different, they rebranded. I can't remember the name of that channel in the UK now, but it's not the horror channel. It's got like a one-word name.
Yeah, I should
You
know
know what I'm
this.
talking about, right?
I do. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So it was getting a lot of play, and I had a lot of people. In fact, I like when I premiered Enclosure at Fright Fest, somebody came to me with the UK DVD of Nailbiter and had me sign it. And it was with I'm trying to remember the name of the company that it was with at the time in the UK that went into administration, and then the movie just kind of disappeared. 101 Films was supposed to get the rights to Nailbiter, but then
yeah.
they never did anything with it.
That's, I mean, look, I know a lot of the people at 101, and in general,
Yeah.
all of my experiences have been positive with them. That
Yeah.
is possible that
it got lost, you know, because
yeah.
I even met with the guy. Funny enough, we ran into each other at Fright Fest, and he goes, "I'm getting your movie," because the company that was falling into administration at the time, all of their movies were going over to 101 Films, but then they never put it out. I don't know what happened. It was very disappointing. After
That is
spending,
unfortunate. I
you know,
mean, look,
spending 4 years.
it does. Unfortunately, it happens a lot. There's a lot of weird behind the scenes restructuring that happens.
Right. Well, the movie is still up on, it's still on, you know, Apple TV, and it's still on iTunes, and it's still on, it's available on Amazon. It's still available streaming wise. It's never gone to any of the free services, what you call AVOD, or, you know, it's never been on any of those. And so, but I've noticed that a lot of films picked up by Lionsgate don't necessarily end up on some of the free streaming services as much, but I'll keep my eye out. But yeah, I it's been so long, and you know, it's funny because everybody's like, why didn't you make a sequel? I'm like, well, I had a script, it took too long, I got frustrated, and I ended up on another movie. So it's like, you know, and it's like 4 movies down the road line, and I'm like, I haven't made this, you know, the second one. So
no, it's
I get asked about it all the time.
I mean, if you get asked about it all the time, that is something that's good, but it's not enough to make it. It's
exactly. I'm always like, hey, if you've got the money, you know, we've got, you know, it's a very, the great thing about it was a very much a Kansas horror movie because it involves tornadoes and stormy weather. It's a big part of the plot. The creatures in
does
the
it
movie,
involve red slippers?
no, it does not. It's like the anti-Wizard of Oz. There's creatures, and we created these fake creatures that are like werewolves, except they only change when there's bad weather. So instead of a full moon, if there's a thunderstorm, they start transforming. So that was a whole original concept that we came up with.
That's a great concept, especially
and so the
now.
first movie, they get locked in the cellar with one of them because it's during a storm, and so one of them has been chained up in the cellar because it's a storm, right? And then, you know, so and so that's what the sequel just got. It was a much more expansive version of that, still in a small town, Kansas, but with like a town that was occupied by all these creatures and stuff like that. So there was more to it. And it, you know, I will make that movie someday if I have to self-fund it at this point, but it's, you know, I'm still happy with the concept, and I'm glad that it, you know, fingers crossed that nobody comes around and goes, you know, that's a good idea, I'm going to rip it off. But you know, you never know. You never know.
It is a very strong high concept. It is and I am a little surprised nobody else has ripped it off yet. But
thankfully, and maybe it's because I think maybe that's why a lot of people really like dug the first one, and we put a lot of time and energy into that film, and it ends kind of on a cliffhanger, which would have made for a good sequel. And so I'm always thinking, okay, it's been 10 years since the release of the first movie, and you know, legacy sequels are a thing now. You know, you can make
Oh
movie
yeah.
30 years later and stuff, but so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.